Welcome back into the channel. In today's video, we're going to be covering which ratings matter across the offensive line within Madden 24 and Madden in the past decade or so in general. It really hasn't changed much, but there are some key details that are incredibly important to know if you want them to block effectively. I will preface this video by saying that, especially in the latest renditions of Madden, your offensive line is going to play pretty crappy, no matter whether they're actually a good rating or not, no matter whether they have the best ratings or not. But you can actually head off a lot of the problems that you can experience within Madden by focusing on some of the ratings that matter the most, and you can get increased performance at certain positions with lower overall players by having certain ratings that are going to be incredibly important to individualized positions. Your left tackle through right tackle positions are all going to be slightly different depending on what you're doing with your offense. Starting with the tackle positions, I want to talk a little bit about left tackle and right tackle. The differences nowadays are not that huge. Honestly, within Madden, you're generally going to want your right tackle and your left tackle to be big-time pass blockers, pass protectors, because the pass rush can be so fast. So you want to be able to head that off. It is incredibly difficult to have even the best pass blockers in the game be effective at pass blocking consistently. So it is something worth keeping in mind. One of the biggest things, though, that can help with your pass block consistency is the player's athleticism at these positions, an often overlooked aspect of the position. And we'll get into this a little bit further with a little bit further of a breakdown of each of these spots, but I wanted to kind of note that to begin with, because again, this is going to be probably why most people look at these videos, is to see what they need to do to get better pass blocking, and it really is a mixed bag no matter what you do. I just want it to be known that a lot of times you're going up against 85 to 90 speed defensive ends, and it's really hard for an offensive lineman with 68 speed, 70 something acceleration, 60 something agility to go up against defensive ends and outside backers that are just way more phenomenal of athletes. One of the toughest things about this game is that they don't really rate offensive linemen appropriately, especially in their athleticism categories, and so they are going to suffer based on the new way that the game actually plays. If they rated these players a little bit more akin to what they're actually capable of, then they would be better at playing up against those fast, athletic defensive ends. We can also kind of look into the fact that some NFL teams, including running teams like the Steelers right now, really like to focus on a run blocking right tackle as opposed to a pass blocking right tackle, and they prefer to focus on a blind side protector that is more pass block focused to give their quarterback more comfort to know that their blind side is blocked better, pass blocked better. So you can keep that in mind whether you're going one way or the other with it. But let's generally look at the left tackle position now and see exactly what is the most important for these players. It's also worth noting that there has been a ton of testing done with the offensive line in Madden, and low overall players oftentimes play better or similar to high overall players. So don't invest too much in overall offensive linemen, and a lot of times it's very easy to get an offensive lineman that has one specific archetype that's really good. Like a lot of times you'll see a high overall power offensive lineman, which is generally not going to be that useful, and they lack in the pass blocking and agile categories, which are the two primary archetypes that you're going to want to look for in any offensive lineman. You generally don't want power offensive linemen except for maybe at like the center position and maybe guards, depending on what you're trying to do. Maybe, but I doubt it, the right tackle if you're really trying to be a run-focused team. Anyway, the left tackle position, we're going to be looking for a pass blocking player. So the number one most important rating here is going to be your player's pass block finesse. And as we can see, Olu Foshinu, I don't know how to say this guy's name, draft pick in the upcoming draft, is at 85 pass block finesse with a +5 from my coach, and from morale, something of that nature. So he's up to a modified 90, that is going to be the most important thing for this player. Generally speaking, going up against the players that are pass rushing off of the edge, you're going up against finesse pass rushers. Therefore, finesse pass blocking is going to be key. Pass block power, not so much, because you're not looking for power rushers out there on the edge so much. You don't want to neglect that, but it's going to be more important to focus on your pass block finesse than anything else, and its combination with your flat out pass block rating, which is going to affect your overall pass blocking capabilities, which is about an 85 here for Olu, which is fantastic. 85 is going to be really solid at that position, but again, we have to compare that with the players we're going up against. A lot of times, even the middle of the pack defensive ends are going to have 90 plus finesse moves, and so you're going to be at a disadvantage if you don't have 90 plus pass block and pass block finesse, which is extremely difficult to get on any offensive lineman in the game, and another reason why these players are often not rated appropriately for how the game actually interacts and plays. Nonetheless, though, you can have an effective offensive lineman, especially a pass blocker at left tackle, by having those solid pass blocking ratings. And then you want to focus on the player's other attributes that are going to affect their pass blocking capability. Number one, their awareness. Olu is very low on his awareness, 71 modified up to a 74. We're looking for anything 75 and above, if not into the 80s, because this is going to affect how well they actually get onto the players that they need to block, how well they locate the pass rushers that are coming at them. A low awareness player like this, even though they have good pass blocking ratings, is going to miss their blocks occasionally because they're not getting to the right player at the right times or quickly enough. They're not diagnosing quickly enough. So awareness is very important. And then your player's strength. I still believe that strength does impact their ability within Madden. Some people have done testing to try to show that strength does not make a difference. I don't necessarily 100% agree with that, but something that works in tandem with strength that might even be more important than a player's strength is their impact blocking rating, because this is your point of contact block. At any time when a player is at the point of contact with a defensive lineman, your impact blocking is going to be evaluated against their impact blocking. Trust me, try it. High impact block on the D line gets a push. High impact block on the offensive line gets a push, despite all the other ratings. You could have a player that has 70s in all of these categories, but has 99 impact block, and they're going to be pretty effective at least getting an initial push. It is something you're going to want to focus on for every single offensive line position. And then after that, I would focus on the athleticism. Generally at the offensive tackle position, I would love to see somebody with 75 plus speed, 80 plus acceleration, and 75 plus agility, so that they can at least try to stand up against those athletes at the defensive end edge rusher position. As you can see here, Olu's at 68, 86, 78. This is still above average for most offensive linemen within the game. It's very difficult to find offensive linemen that even have this level of athleticism, and that's because this is from a custom draft class. These are the numbers that you want to focus on, though. 70 and above in both speed and agility, and 80 plus in acceleration is going to set you up for some amount of consistency and success. One highly overlooked stat, depending on what you're doing in franchise mode or whatever you're playing, is going to be your player's stamina. High stamina is going to keep this player onto the field for longer. We run 75 fatigue in our leagues, and these guys come off the field. So having high stamina can be really important at this position. And then beyond this, we take a look at some ratings that are just going to be kind of tertiary, depending on what you're doing with these guys. So we have the run block power, and run block finesse ratings. If you want to be a good running football team, I'm looking for 75 and above in all of those categories to at least be capable of doing some blocking. 80 plus is going to be more consistent. And then as you get higher, of course, you're going up against higher block shedding numbers. Your run blocking, your run block power, run block finesse is going to be targeted against the defensive lineman's block shedding capability, their block shedding numbers. So a lot of those D linemen are going to have 85 plus block shedding. You want those run blocking numbers to match if you want to be able to run the football. Lead block only ever impacts you if this guy is in the open field looking for a block. So it is very often not appropriate for left tackles and right tackles. The only reason that I say that is generally they're going to have a defensive end or a defensive tackle that is to their right or to their left that's immediately going to be blocked by them, whether it's a passing play or a running play. You don't often see your tackles out in the open field trying to get up to the second level or anything like that. Maybe on counter plays, so something to consider if you run a lot of counter plays and those types of things, but not too often you get your tackle pulling or moving up to the second level, so don't really focus on lead blocking. You don't have to focus on their run blocking too much. And then from there, we just have to take a look at the player's traits. There are important traits for the offensive line position. This is one of the positions where it affects things the most. Depending again on what you do in franchise mode, this is going to be the case for every offensive line position, so consider that. We want the discipline penalty tendency because that's going to prevent us from getting flags thrown against us. Normal is okay. We do not want undisciplined players. More often than not, if you're playing in a franchise or whatever that actually throws flags, you're going to see a lot of holding calls on undisciplined players and even normal penalty players. Beyond that, though, we want the high motor trait. This is going to be the most important thing for offensive linemen for consistency. I have not done any actual physical testing on the high motor trait for offensive linemen, but it just seems that when I get these players on my team that have a disciplined or normal penalty tendency and a high motor, they just block more consistently and effectively for me on that O-line in pass blocking and run blocking situations, so it's at least something worth taking a look at. At the right tackle position, much of the same is true. If you're looking for that pass blocking player, you're going to want to look at all the same ratings: the pass block finesse, the pass blocking, the awareness of that player, the impact blocking, and then their athleticism. Rob Havenstein has been a fantastic right tackle for me because he has a good balance of everything. He has 86 pass block. He's modified 92 pass block finesse. His 96 awareness is great, which means he's pretty much always getting onto his block and getting onto the right guy. His impact blocking is 89 right now, which means he's always making a push, or at least not getting pushed back off of the line of scrimmage. And then his athleticism is serviceable enough in this franchise at 70, 73, 70, where he's not getting beat off the ball by those speed edge rushers too quickly and too easily. He's able to keep up. But the other thing to consider here is if you want to have a running offense, oftentimes you're going to want to have your non-blindside tackle be the run blocker. Well, what's the logic behind that? Again, your blindside blocker has to be your best pass protector, your left tackle traditionally, because most quarterbacks are right-handed, so you want to protect their left side, right? So they can't see back that way. They can see what's happening with the right tackle out of the corner of their eye because they're turned this direction. So you want to have a left tackle that's a better pass blocker than anything. If you have a good pass blocking offensive lineman, put them at that left tackle spot, put the better run blocker at the right tackle spot, and work on their pass blocking capabilities. And that again is where your run block power, your run block finesse are going to come into play, primarily focusing on run block and run block finesse. Most of the runs within this game are zone blocks, which are considered finesse runs. They kind of go hand in hand with that run block finesse. And then the final thing to note at these positions is a player's height and weight. It is pretty important to have tall offensive tackles at left tackle and right tackle. Heavier always seems to be better. Bigger, heavier players in every Madden seem to get more of a push than lower weight players, and it seems to factor in to the algorithms going on behind the screens. If you get a 6'8", 330-pound offensive tackle going against a 240-pound defensive end, that's going to help give you an edge, especially in the run blocking side of things. I don't know how much in Madden 24 it really impacts anything, but if I get a 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" offensive lineman, they're typically playing tackle, and if I get a 6'4", 6'5", maybe even 6'3" lineman, they're playing on the interior, because low man wins in football, especially in run blocking situations. That's where you want your run blockers to be, is in the middle of the offensive line. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at guards. Your offensive guards, left and right guard, are going to be identical. Your requirements at both of these positions are going to be the same, and again, it's going to start with what you want these players to do most. Now, what I will say is that your right guard and your left guard, especially if you are going to be a running team in any capacity need to have athleticism. That is key number one for these positions. You're looking for 70 plus speed, 70 plus agility. You also want change of direction, which is not listed here. You want your change of direction to be as close to that agility number as possible, hopefully 70 and above, and you want good acceleration. Why is that? Well, you can get really good run blocking performance out of your guards because they're able to move up to linebacker level and get blocks on those players. The quicker they can fire off the line, the quicker they can get up to their assignments on the second level, the better they're going to be as offensive linemen, opening up holes for you, which is what guards are mainly meant to do. Again, these are going to be players that you want to have good impact block and good lead block. That is the most important thing. If Kevin Dotson had nothing else beside that athleticism and that 95 lead block, 95 impact block, he would still be an awesome guard in this game. If he had 70s and everything else, he would still be an awesome guard because he would get to where he needs to go and he would be making contact, pushing guys back at the point of contact and opening up running gaps for you. Now, is he going to hold his blocks as well? No, not with those ratings, but then we focus on the other ratings and what's most important. Strength, really important for interior offensive linemen. Why? You're going up against stronger defensive linemen that have high impact block, defensive linemen that have bigger bodies, higher strength. And so these are players that you want to be 320 plus, 330 plus in weight. And these are players that you want to have a good strength rating and a good impact block rating to go up against that. Then we're focusing on what do we want to do with this player. Typically, you're going to want these players to be your run blockers. So run block rating. And again, I would focus personally on run block finesse because that's how it relates to most of the runs within the game. But if you want to run powers and traps and those types of things, your run block power will be somewhat important because that is what influences how well you can run those plays. So keep that in mind as you are utilizing these players. Awareness can be relatively important, mixed in with what I've already talked about as far as getting up to the correct assignment, diagnosing quickly, and getting onto a block, so don't overlook that. Pretty much everything you see on these screens is going to be relatively important to offensive linemen in some way. The only thing that's not here is change of direction that is worth taking a look at, that you can definitely see from the base screen here. It's always listed. Your first four stats are the first thing that I look at pretty much anytime I look at a guard. Speed, excel, agility, change of direction. If they're all in that 70 plus range, I know that I have a good guard candidate. The difference between guards and centers, however, is that guards are more often than not covered by a defensive lineman. A center is always covered by a defensive lineman. Now, there are times where they will have to go up to the second level, or they'll have to double team, or whatever it might be, and it might not be their direct block, but 90% of the time your center is covered by some type of interior defensive lineman, and so the athleticism is far less important. If I have a strong, good impact blocking offensive lineman that's not very athletic, I usually put them at the center position, and that's exactly what Brian Allen is. Brian Allen has only 65 speed, 62 agility, 77 acceleration, but he's a really good impact block player. He has good strength, good run block power, good run block finesse, good run block, and that's all I need at the center position. Trust me, there's not very often with the three interior linemen that you're going up against good pass rushers, and oftentimes they're going to be in double team situations anyway. I doubt you're experiencing a ton of pressure up the middle, more so probably off of the edge, and so you don't have to focus on pass blocking ratings for your interior offensive linemen, left guard, center, right guard, very much whatsoever. If you have those pass block ratings for those three positions in the 75 plus range, you're going to be decent, and you're not very often going to let up sacks through the middle. You're not very often going to let up pressure through the middle. So I want you to consider that. There's more traffic in the middle of the offensive line to contend with that makes it more difficult to pass rush. Plus, those players coming through are much slower getting to the quarterback. A lot of those interior D linemen have 70, 75 speed. They're not going to get to you before you throw the ball. So again, for your center position, focus on this player's impact blocking as number one. If you can get a center with 99 impact blocking, you're setting yourself up for success, because every play they are going to be point of contact immediately with some type of interior defensive lineman, and you want your center to be the one getting the push. So higher impact block, the better. Minimum of 90 impact blocking for a center. If you don't have close to or above 90 impact blocking, the player should not be playing center for you. Keep that in mind. That is extremely important. Lead block, not so important for the center position. Impact blocking, run block power would be my top 3 ratings for this position. Strength and run block finesse would be my second tier there. You want strength to be in that 90 range, again, somewhere around your impact blocking, because you're going to be going up against similar players on the D line there. And depending on what you're running here, you're going to be going up against basically power rushers through the middle. So that's what you want to consider. And if you're going to focus on pass blocking with this player at all, focus on pass block power, because there's not too many D tackles in the game that have finesse moves whatsoever or utilize them. And then that's pretty much all there is to the center position. The center position is the most simple, as long as you focus on the core elements that make a center effective, which is that point of contact push. If you don't have a player that can get that point of contact push via their impact block, via their run block power, and their strength, those types of things, you're not going to have a very good center. If you don't have guards that are athletic enough to get up to the second level, that can pull and get out in front for you, that can actually get onto blocks with their lead block and whatnot, not going to be very effective guards. There are some guards in the game that are really high rated, but they're not good at moving whatsoever. And then offensive tackles, we went over that in depth. Hopefully this information was helpful to you. If it was, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell notification button. As always, I'll see you in the next video, and I hope you have a good one.